I'm going to hold your hand while I say this. Just because it worked for their fitness or wellness business doesn't mean it'll work for yours, especially if it doesn't align with the stage your business is in. Let's talk about what that really means. Hey, y'all, welcome to the Sweat and Equity Show. I'm Ari, and this is where we have real conversations about building sustainable businesses in the fitness and wellness industry. If you haven't listened to episode 1, I highly recommend that you do so because that episode lays the foundation for why the show exists. As for today, episode 2, I want to get into the nitty-gritty about how our businesses naturally evolve as fitness and wellness pros. Every business in this industry, whether you are coaching one-on-one, running a studio, hosting retreats, building a product, leading a community, we do a whole lot. Every single one moves through stages, and most of the confusion, most of the why this isn't working in my business or frustration when you're trying to level up your business comes from not knowing which stage you're actually in. So you're out here taking advice, watching other people on the internet, trying to figure out what applies to you, and nothing quite fits. You're thinking you're missing something. And honestly, I don't think you're missing anything but context. So in this episode, I'm excited to give you that context. I'll be geeking out on several things, but definitely spending time on breaking down the 3 stages every business goes through: the building stage, the growing stage, the scaling stage, what they actually look like, and how your role changes in each one. And most importantly, how to make decisions that fit where you actually are right now. Not where you think you should be, where you actually are. Let's get into it. Now, I gotta start off with talking about something that makes me cringe a little bit when I hear fitness and wellness business advice being given on these internets. I feel like it's talked about as if business strategies apply to everyone in the industry equally. Someone shares what's worked for them, it gets edited into a reel, it spreads fast, and boom, it becomes positioned as the way to build your business as a fitness and wellness professional. You got to scale your business. You got to stop trading time for money. You got to diversify your income. You got to build something that doesn't rely on you. Okay, cool. I hear that. On the surface, that advice sounds brilliant. It's dope and could very well be the answer to your business challenges. But oftentimes what's missing is context, because a strategy that perfectly works for one person can totally flop for another, depending on the type of business you're running, the stage your business is in, and the capacity of the person, that'll be you, operating it. I've personally had to learn this the hard way. There were moments in my business where I tried to apply strategies I saw other people on the internet using, only to realize later on that it didn't work out because I executed them poorly. Because listen, execution is my middle name. I'm just saying. They weren't successful because they didn't match the stage my business was actually in. And when no one explains that part, we internalize the wrong lesson and put a ton of pressure on ourselves. So let me give you some examples because I want to make sure you hear me on this. Say you're a studio owner. You hear someone online talk about scaling through digital products or membership, and you start wondering if your in-person model is making you behind. But what doesn't get talked about is that your business has physical overhead, staffing considerations, leasing agreements, and just a community dynamic that changes how scaling even works for your business. Or maybe you are a one-on-one coach. You hear, stop trading your time for money over and over again. So you feel pressure to create a course or a group program before you've even fully understood your client patterns, your client needs, objections. And when it doesn't sell, you're not questioning the timing, you're questioning yourself, thinking you ain't doing stuff right. Say you are running retreats or live experiences. You might hear advice from someone building a digital first business, and suddenly you're wondering if the high touch, high impact work you do is somehow less legitimate because it's not scalable in the same way. But retreats operate on a completely different rhythm, speaking from experience, different margin, different energy, different demands, different decision-making timelines. Say you are a community builder. Hey, I see you. Maybe you run a run club, a walking group, or a local wellness collective. You're creating massive impact, but maybe monetization doesn't feel as clear. So when you hear advice about adding funnels and ads and recurring revenue, you feel like you may be missing something, right? Lots of FOMO, when in reality, your business model requires trust, it requires time and proximity before you even get to a point of scaling. And last one, say you work in corporate wellness, you do speaking, partnerships, your decision-making is influenced by contracts, timelines, external stakeholders. Advice about launching quickly or pivoting a whole lot, it's not applicable in the same way because your business doesn't move at the speed of social media. Now, in these instances, what usually happens is you don't hear the nuance behind the advice. You just hear the outcome. So you start applying the strategies that high key may not even fit your model, your capacity, or your stage. And when things feel harder instead of easier, you assume you're doing something wrong. You start thinking, maybe I'm not cut out for this entrepreneurship life. Maybe I need to just get another certification. Maybe I need a new offer. But most of the time, the issue isn't what you're capable of. It's truly this messy middle that many people don't talk about. And it's just that you don't have context. Now, what is this context, Ari? Oh, I thought you never ask. I got some things to share. Now, as someone who has built a successful fitness and wellness business across different business models, across different brands, I've learned that every business moves through 3 stages. I briefly mentioned them: the building stage, the growing stage, the scaling stage. Each stage typically asks something completely different of you. And when you don't know what stage you're in, it's so easy to feel stuck, be overwhelmed, or just unsure of what needs to happen next in your business. But when you do have that clarity, decisions start to feel lighter. You'll generally feel more aligned and intentional as you run your business. Let me tell you, that's a good feeling. That's a real good feeling. Now, before we dive into the stages, I know I'm going to get there. I do want to give you a lens for understanding them, because without this, the stages are just information. I'm not just trying to give you information. I want them to become a framework that you could actually use over time in your business. That lens is operator thinking. For a long time, I didn't really have the language for what I was doing in my business. I was just doing. I was working hard. I was building, responding, fixing things as they come up. And if you're listening to this, there's a good chance that you are maybe in this mode, or you were once here at some point in your business. You wake up thinking about your business. You fall asleep thinking about your business. Your calendar determines your income. Your energy determines your capacity. Your presence determines whether things are moving or stalling in your business. And that's normal. That's what comes with building a business. But at some point, something shifts. You realize that you are not just doing the work anymore. You are managing the consequences of the work that you've already done. That's personally when I learned what it meant to think more like an operator. And while we're here, you're going to hear me use this word operator a whole lot on this podcast. So I do want to be super clear on what I mean, since it will be our shared language we hear. When I say operator, I'm not talking about becoming less human in how you build. When I say operator, I am talking about your ability to take a step back, look at how your business is actually functioning, not just what you're doing in the day-to-day, but how all of it works together over time. An operator doesn't just ask, what do I need to do today? You're typically asking, what is this business asking of me over time? And that shift from being the doer, the coach, the trainer, the fitness instructor, still could do those things, but you still need to shift to the operator. And it's everything. It's what allows you to notice patterns in your business instead of reacting to every moment, to understand where your energy is actually going, to see where the money is consistent versus not, and to recognize when your effort is actually producing results or if you just are doing to do. Most of us in this industry, I'd say, are trained to be really good doers, but very few of us are taught how to think like operators. And why does this matter? Operating thinking looks different depending on the different stages you are in your business. If you are in the building stage, it helps you simplify instead of overcomplicating things. In the growing stage, it helps you reduce instead of keeping on adding more stuff. And in the scaling stage, it helps you protect what you've built instead of chasing every opportunity. So I'm going to walk you through each stage. And as I do, I challenge you to listen through this lens, not asking which stage just sounds best, but asking, what does my business actually need from me right now? All right, pen and paper, friends, I'm going to get into it. Now, every business starts somewhere. And for most people, that somewhere is that very first stage. It's the building stage. The building stage will absolutely be the season when your business relies heavily on you, boo. That's your time, your energy, your presence, your body, depending on the profession that you're in the industry. Basically, if you don't show up, the business slows down or it stops. And I want to say this because I don't think we hear it enough. That is not failure, that is information. That is what early stage businesses do. In this stage, you are the engine. You are the delivery system. You are often the brand, the service provider, the marketer, and the ops team. So yes, everything feels personal. When a client cancels, you feel it. When a month is slow and the money is not moneying, you feel it. When you are tired, your business is tired too. So what does this look like in real life? I want to give you some examples. If you're a coach, this might look like your income being directly tied to the sessions on your calendar. If you are a studio owner, it might look like teaching classes while also covering staff gaps, while also managing schedules, while also handling issues real time. If you are someone who builds in the community, maybe you're organizing everything, you're energizing everyone while also holding the culture together. If you are hosting small events or even doing retreats, you might be involved in every single detail, from promoting it to executing it to following up. There's usually a lot generally that's happening, a lot of juggling in this stage. You might be working a job. That was my case when I was side hustling, coaching early mornings or evenings. You might be teaching, creating content, answering DMs, handling admin work, trying to be consistent with getting clients all at the same time. And because you're doing so much, it could actually feel like you should be further along than you are because, dang, you putting in work, right? But the reality is the work of the building stage is not just about growing. It's about learning and listening. You're learning who your ideal clients are, what they're willing to pay, what does success look like, what do clients say they want versus what they actually need, what drains you, what energizes you, what kind of offers feel aligned, which ones already feel heavy. This is true whether you are running one-on-one sessions, leading group workouts, piloting a product, hosting pop-ups, or building a small community. When I was doing one-on-one coaching, this stage taught me everything, not through theory, but through repetition, through patterns, through listening, through noticing what questions kept coming up and where my clients struggled, even when they were motivated. And me just launching this podcast, I am absolutely in the building stage right now. So you are legit watching this real time. Now let's talk about what the building stage typically feels like. Oftentimes, a whole lot. Your calendar might be full, but your income may not always be incoming. You might be booked, but mentally exhausted. Trust me, I hear you, I feel you, I see you. Because if you stop, everything stops. And that creates low-level anxiety or maybe high-level. The questions in this stage usually sound like, how do I get more clients consistently? How much do I charge, or am I even charging enough? Why does it feel like I'm always working but still unsure? Should I add another offer? Now, what are some mistakes I typically see operators make in this stage? I'd say there are two things that immediately come to mind. One is just making things far more complex than they need to be early on in the business. The reality is this stage can be uncomfortable AF. And when you are not getting the revenue you hope for upfront, listen, I know you got bills to pay, or when the leads may not be rolling in the way you hear about it on Instagram, the discomfort of this stage can lead many to look for certainty. And instead of finding certainty through clarity and repetition, they try to find it through more. Adding more offers, using more platforms, writing more ideas, expanding to more audiences. But when your attention is spread too thin in too many places in your business, you're never gonna actually build enough depth into that one thing and actually learn what works. I see it a whole lot in the fitness and wellness professionals I've advised. Trying to automate, scale, diversify before even proving that you have demand. Building systems for businesses that don't even exist yet. Spending money on all these tools and branding and strategies instead of spending time understanding their clients. What that creates over time is fragility. When income dips, there's no core offer to stabilize it. When your energy is low, there's no simple system to lean on. Everything feels effortful, a whole lot, because nothing has been refined. In the building stage, complexity is the enemy. The second big mistake I see in the building stage is underpricing and overgiving. I feel that to my core. I'm definitely guilty of this, especially when the scarcity of my mindset was at an all-time high when it came to money. We convince ourselves that charging less will make things easier, when in reality, it usually creates resentment and exhaustion. You start doing more for less, telling yourself that it's just temporary. And you end up with PITA clients, pain in the ass clients. And you're frustrated when they ask so much of you or they don't respond well when you increase the prices. The real cost here isn't just financial, it's your confidence. Now, how exactly should an operator move in this stage? In my opinion, I got two words: simplification and observation. One clear offer, one clear outcome, one clear path for someone to become a client, not rushing to scale, not copying the 11 things someone else is doing, but committing long enough to see patterns to take it to another level in your business. Now, with that said, I'm sure you can agree that there is a lot of advice you'll hear on the internets on how to generate more income and yada, yada, yada. So instead of sharing with you the advice I would listen to if you identify as someone in this building stage, I want to share with you advice that is a personal hard pass, nah, ain't it from me. Okay, here goes. 1, you need to be everywhere on social media. No, you don't. Unless you've mastered the social media game, I'd encourage you to be consistent in 1 or 2 places where your people actually are. Pick the platforms, know where they are, show up there, master it, then think about expanding. When you're in the building stage, your attention is your most valuable resource. Spreading it thin across multiple platforms means you're never building real depth or trust anywhere. And depth is what converts, not necessarily reach. Speaking from experience, okay? 2, automate everything. Automate what? You're still learning what works. Automating too early means you are scaling confusion. Manual is fine right now. Manual teaches you things automation never will. Every time you personally respond to a DM, every time you walk someone through your offer, every time you troubleshoot a client's struggle, that is data, that is tea. That's you learning the language your clients actually use, the objections they have, and the transformation they actually care about. You can't automate your way to that knowledge. 3, create a course or group program. Not yet. One-on-one or small group work in the building stage isn't a stepping stone to something better. It's the foundation. You need to know what questions come up at week 2, what resistance shows up at week 4, what breakthrough happens at week 6. A course created without even understanding that is just guessing, and guessing doesn't sell. Don't shoot the messenger. And lastly, you should have multiple revenue streams. You should have one revenue stream that works, in my humble opinion, then maybe another. Diversification is a growing or scaling strategy, not a building strategy. When you are trying to prove that people will pay for your work, adding more offers just creates more things to market, more things to deliver, and more confusion for potential clients about what you actually do. One clear offer that works consistently is worth more than 5 offers that each make a little money sometimes. The building stage isn't about doing more, it's about learning more. Now, at some point, if you stay in the building stage long enough and you pay attention, something shifts. Things start to work. Clients come more consistently. Your name carries weight. Yes, I love that for you. There is momentum. And that's when you enter stage 2, which is the growing stage. The growing stage is where momentum shows up. It's also where you can get confused as an operator because this stage doesn't feel like how it's expected to feel, especially when it comes to success. From the outside, this stage often looks great. You're making more money, more people know who you are, your offers are filling up, there is demand. But internally, this is where you may feel more stretched than ever. This is the stage where you realize that growth absolutely has weight. More clients mean more delivery. More visibility means more expectations. More income often means more responsibility. So what does that look like in real life? Let's talk about it. Say you're a coach. This might look like being booked out solid, but you are mentally fried. If you are a studio owner, it may look like adding classes, staff, or even locations before systems are even stable. If you sell a product, it may look like an incredible increase in sales, but you don't even have enough hands to ship those orders. If you host retreats or events, it may look like higher demand paired with longer recovery time. If you work in corporate, wellness, or speaking, it may look like bigger contracts with longer sales cycles and more stakeholders. It's super easy in this stage to think, I should be grateful, while quietly feeling overwhelmed AF, because technically things are working, but the cost of making them work, it keeps rising. Trust me, I have been there. When my 28-day lean became a group coaching program for me, this was real. The demand was high, my cohorts were full, but I was live launching every single month. What looked like scale was actually way more intense than I could handle because I was on a hamster wheel of my own creation. Every single month, I was coaching the cohort through the 28 days. I was hosting a weekly group coaching call. I was leading webinars to sell the next cohort. I was the one creating and posting the content. I was the one answering the questions. I was the content creator, the coach, the marketer, the seller. And yes, I had an assistant health coach, and that was one of the best decisions I made. But I still needed help. Side note, I do take you through the behind the scenes of how I took my 28-day lean program from a one-on-one coaching program to a group coaching program to evergreen to corporate licensing in my weekly newsletter, the Sweat and Equity Insider. I'll drop the link in the show notes below. Be sure to take a look if you're curious about how I did it. This leads to my next question. What does the growing stage expose about your business? Ooh, 2 words. Weak systems. It shows you where you are overextended. It shows you where your business only works if you are always on and in it. It shows you that you need to expand your team. The questions in this stage are different than the building stage. Now it's, why am I burning out? What do I need to stop doing? How do I protect my energy? Why does everything still rely on me? And trust me, I know it's real. It's so real. And here's what I'll say that I don't think gets said enough. Your business can be successful and unsustainable. The growing stage is not about adding more. It's about making decisions that reduce that pressure over time. This is where boundaries stop being personal and start becoming strategic. This is where access needs to be reevaluated a whole lot. This is where you realize that doing everything yourself is no longer a badge of honor. It's not noble, it's limiting. This stage often comes with identity shifts. You're no longer just a doer. You're becoming a decision maker. And that can feel uncomfortable if your sense of worth has been tied to your effort, your responsiveness, or just simply being needed. Again, guilty as charged, friends. The big trap here is ignoring the warning signs because things are working. You tell yourself the exhaustion is just a part of growth. Like, I'll overcome it. The consequence shows up slowly. You start dreading things you used to love. Your creativity drops, your patience gets thinner, and eventually you start fantasizing about quitting the very thing you worked so hard to build. So how exactly should you be moving in this stage to avoid those things? 2 words, discernment and reduction. What stays, what goes, what needs structure, what needs support. Growth without these decisions doesn't lead to freedom. It leads to straight burnout. Trust me, again, I know. Now, similar to the building stage, I want to share internet advice that I personally would be like, nope, hard pass if I was in this stage. 1, just push through. Everyone feels tired when they're growing. Listen, being tired is normal, but being burnt out and resentful, that's a warning sign. There's a difference between the good tired that comes from doing meaningful work and the bad tired that comes from doing things that shouldn't be on your plate anymore. When you find yourself avoiding client emails, or feeling dread before a session you used to absolutely love, that's not something that you push through. That's something you need to redesign. 2, saying yes to every opportunity. Now this, my friends, this is how you end up with a business that looks successful on paper and on LinkedIn, but feels chaotic to run. Every yes has a cost. In the growing stage, you need to get really good at saying no. Every speaking gig, collaboration, brain picking, partnership, quick favor takes energy, it takes attention, it takes time away from what you should actually be focusing on your business and what makes it stable. The growing stage isn't about collecting opportunities, it's also about protecting the ones that matter. 3, hire someone to do what you're doing. I'd rephrase this. It's more like hire someone to do what shouldn't be done by you anymore. There's a difference. Don't just replicate yourself. Redesign the work. If you hire someone to do exactly what you've been doing, you just create a bottleneck in a different place. Instead, ask, what part of this work actually requires my specific expertise? And what part is just task execution? Separate those, hire for the latter. And now for the final stage, stage 3. Eventually, if growth continues with redesign and all the things I just mentioned, you hit a moment where the questions change. It's no longer, how do I keep this going? It becomes, what am I actually building for? That's the entry point into scaling. Scaling is the most misunderstood stage because people think it's about your speed or your size. It's not. Scaling is about design. This is the stage where you stop asking, what else can I do? and start asking, what is this business meant to support? For me, scaling started when I had to confront the hard truth about my 28-day lean program. It worked, but it required me to be constantly present. That realization forced a different kind of thinking. How could this experience exist without requiring the same level of real-time involvement from me? How could it respect my capacity more? How could it reach more people without burning me out? That thinking led to me making it evergreen. And then another question followed. How does this extend beyond direct to consumer? That's when IP, licensing, and corporate conversations came into play. Now, how might this look across different business models? For a studio owner, scaling might look like leadership development, curriculum, or systems that outlive your daily presence. Kick your butt to the curb. For a retreat host, it might look like fewer, more intentional experiences. For product business, it might look like refining distribution instead of launching something new. For a corporate operator, it may look like long-term partnerships instead of one-off engagements. This is a big one. But the real shift here is not tactical. I do believe it's mental, because the scaling is where you typically become selective, more intentional, less reactive. You start thinking in terms of longevity instead of momentum. The questions here sound like, what deserves my attention now? What can exist without me? What kind of life is this business meant to support? What am I willing to let go of, even if it looks good on the internet? I feel like I keep saying that. This stage generally just requires restraint, and restraint is one of the hardest skills to build in an industry that rewards visibility, your output, your constant expansion. Two of the biggest mistakes I'd say operators make in this stage. One is that opportunity can become a distraction. Listen, I love opportunities for you, a whole lot. You just need to have more discernment on what opportunities to accept. Is it in alignment with your business goals for the year? Will it give your business more visibility if that's a goal? Is it a personal goal related to giving back? Is it a paid speaking opportunity? When you start saying yes because you can, you are saying no to parts of the business that need you. Chasing things that sound impressive but pull your business off course, at that point is built for ego, not longevity. Another common mistake in scaling is refusing to let things run without you. You've built the systems, but you don't trust them. You've hired help, but you keep stepping back in. You've created leverage, but you're still micromanaging. And that absolutely creates a bottleneck. The business can't grow past your capacity because you won't let it. So how exactly does an operator need to move in this stage? 2 words: alignment and restraint. Not every opportunity is meant to be pursued. Not every idea deserves execution. Scaling isn't about expansion at all costs. It's about protecting the integrity of what you built. As far as advice that I would be like, hard pass in this stage, one is you need to keep launching new things. Actually, I think you need to protect what's working. New isn't always better. Sometimes the smartest move is deepening what already exists instead of expanding into 50, 11 million things, okay? When you're constantly launching, you're constantly in build mode. You'll never get to really refine, improve, or fully leverage what you have already created, and that's where nobody tells you. The business that's always launching new things often does because they're never committed long enough to make the existing thing really great. 2, if you're not growing, you're dying. This is hustle culture disguised as business advice. Sometimes the most strategic thing you can do is plateau intentionally, consolidate, strengthen, let things stabilize before the next move. There's a version of growth that's sustainable and a version that's just impressive sounding. In the scaling stage, you've earned the right to be selective of which one is right for you in this season. Growth for the sake of growth often means you're building a business that looks successful but feels like you're running on a treadmill on 8.0. The scaling stage isn't about building bigger, it's about building better. So what does this mean for you? It means that it's time to make some decisions in your business, boo. If you are someone with more than one product offering, it is super normal to be in more than one stage. It's definitely my case often. You can be building one part of your business while growing another. You can be scaling one offer while rebuilding the structure somewhere else. What matters isn't you labeling yourself perfectly. What matters is making decisions that actually match what you're building right now. I'd encourage you to use this guidance per product to gain more clarity on where you are with each one and just start asking better questions. If you're in a building season, the question isn't, how do I scale this? It's, what am I learning here? What patterns keep showing up? What's working consistently, even if it feels small? What drains me faster than it should? If you're in a growing season, the question isn't, how do I add more? What's creating pressure in this business right now? What would feel lighter if I were to structure it a little differently or a lot of differently? What am I holding onto out of fear instead of intention? Where am I the bottleneck? If you're in a scaling season, the question isn't, what else can I build? It's, what actually deserves my energy at this level? What can exist without my constant involvement? What kind of life is this business meant to support? What am I willing to stop doing, even if I'm good at it? And there you have it. I hope this episode gave you more context and perspective. And most importantly, I hope you're walking away with more clarity on where you actually are or what your business actually needs in this season. You absolutely got this. If you're someone who learns best by seeing how this all plays out in real life, I'd encourage you to subscribe to my newsletter, The Sweat and Equity Insider, where I give you the tea on how each of these stages showed up in one specific product in my business, my 28-day lean program. I walk you through how it started as one-on-one coaching, how it moved through different business models, where it worked, where it burned me out, because that absolutely happened, and how I redesigned it to scale, eventually becoming evergreen and licensed on the corporate side. I've dropped a link below in the show notes. Be sure to check it out. Also, be sure to subscribe. And one ask of you is to share this episode with 3 fitness and wellness professionals in your network who is building, who is growing, who is scaling, and needs to be a part of this conversation. I do believe that when we have these conversations with each other, it allows us to build stronger, build in community. So yeah, that's what I got for today. See you in episode 3, friends.